Clemson University has had a long and well-documented football tradition. It has never been richer than in the era of 1977 through 80. Over the last 4 years, no other Atlantic Coast Conference school has won more games, appeared in more bowl contests, had more All-Americans, and more players sign NFL contracts. Players like Jerry Butler, Steve Fuller, Dwight Clark, Jim Stuckey, and Archie Reese, now NFL stars. They were all prime contributors to Tiger success during this memorable era of Tiger football. In 1980, despite the presence of 17 underclassmen starters, the winning continued for a fourth consecutive season. In what was supposed to have been a rebuilding season, the first of the 80s was a success. Danny Ford's young team has laid the foundation of a titanic Tiger onslaught of the ACC for the new decade. Truly, the hallowed tradition of Clemson football is continuing to grow and grow. It's been said that ambition and youth go hand in hand. Danny Ford's second Clemson football team certainly can attest to that. Tackling a schedule that was ranked as the nation's 9th most difficult by the NCAA, this team, with no seniors on its first 2 teams on offense and only 10 seniors on the entire squad, provided Tiger fans with thrill after thrill. The inexperienced Tigers did not ease into their schedule as they faced Rice in the season's opener, a team that went on to defeat such perennial football powers as LSU, Arkansas, and Houston before the season was over. Defense was the name of the game early, as evidenced by this quarterback sack by Steve Durham and Jeff Bryant, Clemson's upside-down twins at tackle. Numbers 66 and 99 were in Randy Hurdle's hair all day. Rice converted a Clemson fumble into a 3-0 lead in the first quarter. But it wasn't long before the Tigers' instant offense penetrated the Owl goal line. With 5.5 minutes left in the half, Tiger quarterback Homer Jordan hit wide receiver Jerry Gilliard with this 12-yard aerial to get things going. Then, a combination that was to riddle the ACC all season connected on its first bomb attempt of the year. Homer Jordan to Perry Tuttle. It gave the Tigers a 6-3 lead on this textbook 59-yard scoring pass. Tiger fans and players rejoiced as Clemson had a lead they would never relinquish. The well-executed and timely play gave Clemson something pleasant to ponder in the locker room, and they savored the feeling the rest of the afternoon. The offense was moving consistently behind Jordan. He hit Perry Tuttle on this play for 18 yards. The two connected for 105 yards through the air on the day. And when Jordan ran 4 yards to score, giving the Tigers a 13-3 lead, the victory over the Southwest Conference foe had been assured. Obed Ariri added a pair of fourth-quarter field goals, and Hollis Hall and Terry Kennard combined to snuff out any final Owl thoughts of victory. The Tigers had grounded Rice 19-3. Clemson made its biannual journey down I-85 on September 20th for the 49th renewal of the Clemson-Georgia game. The nationally ranked Bulldogs were riding high behind a freshman named Herschel Walker, an Earl Campbellish bulldozer who was catching the eye of the nation. But the Tiger defense had come prepared, as Chuck Rose and Tad Hauser had become well-versed in the Bulldog back's reputation. again, the Tiger defense derailed the runaway Walker in the opening half, and the gifted rookie gained only 12 yards and 6 carries, his lowest first-half performance of the season. Depth is a sign of a good team, and the Tigers showed their numbers on this sunny day. Mike Gaskew and Edgar Pickett, subbing for injured Homer Jordan and Jeff McCall, respectively, guided the Tigers on scoring drives in the first half. Gaskew repeatedly hit Tuttle with conservative but effective passes. Pickett gained 75 yards and had a better per-play average than Walker for the day. A long punt return for a TD and an interception run back, both by Georgia All-American Scott Warner, had given the Bulldogs a 14-0 lead. But Gaskew brought the Tigers back with a good mixture of plays. He saved his wildest play for the Tigers' touchdown. Gaskew handed the ball off to tailback Cliff Austin, but it popped loose. The alert Tiger signal caller picked up the pigskin and scampered in for the first touchdown of his Clemson career. Gaskew then again led the Tigers goalward. This pass to Perry Tuttle, the Winston-Salem, North Carolina native's 6th reception of the half, set up an Obed Ariri field goal with 34 seconds left. That boot left the Tigers behind 14-10 after 30 minutes. A score that had fans bewildered, considering that Clemson had run 56 plays to Georgia's 10 in the first 30 minutes. The two teams traded a pair of field goals in a defensive-minded second half. The Tigers continued to drive, but time and again, Clemson stopped Clemson. With 3:20 remaining in the game, Georgia punter Jim Broadway fumbled the snap, and Tiger linebacker Jeff Davis pounced on the loose ball at the dog 41. Clemson then drove to the Georgia 10. But when Mike Gaskew tried to hit Jerry Gilliard with the winning score in the end zone, Jeff Pitt intercepted. So, despite outgaining the eventual national champions by nearly 200 yards, despite controlling the clock 40 minutes to 20, and despite running 42 more offensive plays, Clemson had suffered a heartbreaking 20-16 loss in a contest that had come inches from ruining a national championship season for the Bulldogs. After a triumph over Western Carolina in Death Valley, the Clemson campus prepared for the traditional homecoming weekend and a contest with the Virginia Tech Gobblers. No one puts on a homecoming like the Tigers. And Danny Ford's team matched the excitement, color, and pageantry of the weekend with a quick opening. Freshman Ike Williams, a wide receiver, started at tailback for the Tigers, and the all-around athlete stunned Virginia Tech with his halfback option pass, a 55-yard bomb to Perry Tuttle. The innovative aerial had set up an Obed Ariri field goal. And again, the Tiger defense came to play. The club that was ranked in the top 10 in the nation in 2 defensive categories coming into the contest hassled Virginia Tech quarterback Steve Casey all afternoon. And nationally ranked running back Cyrus Lawrence found it just as troublesome to run on the Tiger defense. Lawrence, a 1,000-yard rusher in 1980, had his worst game of the year at Clemson, gaining only 29 yards. Clemson took a 10-0 lead late in the second quarter as the Tigers drove 70 yards in 5 plays. This 36-yard pass to Brendan Cripe got the Tigers going. A 19-yard pass to Perry Tuttle on the next play continued the onslaught of the offense. Cripe punctuated the swift drive with this 3-yard blast behind tight end Jim Worst and right tackle Gary Brown. The Tigers had a 10-0 halftime ball. But Gobbler quarterback Steve Casey, one of the best in the South in 1980, refused to quit. Passing on almost every down, he brought the Gobblers back to within 13-10. Virginia Tech had one last chance with the ball in Clemson territory. With 38 seconds left, Casey attempted to pick on Clemson cornerback Eddie Geathers, who was playing on a weak ankle. But the veteran defender from Myrtle Beach felt no pain on this play. He made the theft at the Clemson 6 to quash VPI's final attempt at victory. Geathers' 10th career interception had given Clemson a 13-10 win. Its 10th straight homecoming without defeat. Big plays by Eddie Geathers and the other Tigers on defense were the rule rather than the exception in 1980. Over the last 4 years, Clemson has been omnipresent in the NCAA defensive stats. And here are some of the reasons why. Many things you can count on in this life. Usually you can depend on the sun shining in Clemson, government taxes, and of course the Tigers beating Virginia every year. Clemson had a 19-0 series record against the Cavaliers heading to Charlottesville for that October 11th encounter, and the Tigers were definite favorites to make it 20 in a row over the vastly improving Virginia team. Clemson got off to a good start, mostly behind the running of quarterback Homer Jordan, who repeatedly followed center Tony Berryhill, tackle Brian Clark, guard Brad Fisher, and All-ACC tackle Lee Nanny. Nanny had already been named ACC Offensive Lineman of the Week twice, and Jordan was taking advantage of Clemson's King Kong in football talks. Jordan, who became only the fourth player in Clemson history to run and pass for 100 yards in the same game, on this day hit Perry Tuttle in the right flat with a pass, and the 1981 All-America candidate did the rest. He cut across the field and dodged nearly every Virginia player on the way to one of the most exciting Clemson TDs in history. That coast-to-coast sojourn gave Clemson a 10-7 lead. Tiger lead quickly vanished as the Cavaliers apparently had failed to read the history books. Virginia scored 17 straight points over the next 2 quarters and had a seemingly insurmountable 24-10 advantage heading into that final period. Fortunately for Tiger fans, Homer Jordan and the rest of the Clemson offense read Frank Merriwell religiously. Quarterback Jordan began the comeback with this long pass against the wind to split end Jerry Gilliard. And Gilliard's long run gave the Tigers a 51-yard gain and a first down at the Cavalier 26. On the next play, Jordan starts left on the option. And at the last second, pitches to tailback Brendan Kright, who tight ropes down the sideline for 26 yards and a touchdown. It was Kright's only carry of the day. The Clemson defense did its job by stymieing the Cavalier offense. Hits like this one by Jeff Davis on All-ACC running back Tommy Vigorito. And this stop by defensive tackle Dan Benish on Cavalier quarterback Lindsey Delaney. Typical of the defense stinginess. With 3:05 remaining to play, Clemson put on an all-out rush on Virginia punter Ford Mays. Bauman taking his man out of the middle. Underwood driving through at top speed. And the senior from Alabama blocks the attempt. Now defensive end Bill Smith scoops up the loose ball and scampers the final 11 yards for the tying touchdown. Tiger defense continued to run in the big plays. Virginia, attempting a miracle rally of its own, got a first down at their own 30. But 2 plays later, Steve Durham sacked quarterback Todd Kirkley for an 11-yard loss, and that forced the Cavaliers to punt. Clemson took over at its own 47. There was a minute 20 left on the clock. Jordan, who had gained 213 yards in total offense, picked up 9 on the first play. 7 seconds left, and the ball lying at the Cavalier 35-yard line. Danny Ford called on Obed O'Reilly to attempt a 52-yard field goal. The automatic African responded like the nation's #1 ranked field goal kicker should. He belted the ball well through the uprights. And with 6 seconds to go, the Tigers had taken a 27-24 lead, an advantage they held on to. That prodigious kick set off a celebration that resembled New Year's Eve on Times Square. Clemson had made its greatest fourth-quarter comeback in history. The 52-yard game-winning field goal against Virginia was only one of countless accomplishments by the multi-talented O'Reilly, a two-sport star in Tiger Town, the only player in ACC history to letter in 2 sports, compete at the same time. He finished his athletic career as a top 10 scorer in football and soccer at Clemson. During his senior year on the gridiron, he set national records for field goals in a career, multiple field goal games in a season and a career, field goals in a season, field goals per game in a season, and field goals per game in a career. He also tied 2 other NCAA marks for consecutive games kicking a field goal and consecutive field goals made. At the regional level, he set 10 ACC and Clemson records. A second-team All-American, according to Newspaper Enterprises Association of America, O'Reilly became the first Clemson football player in history to lead the NCAA in a statistical category. One of the teams O'Reilly booted about was Wake Forest, the Tigers' 8th opponent of the year. He kicked 3 field goals in the first half, helping Clemson to an early lead. Chuck McSwain got out of a mid-season sophomore slump and ran 18 yards for a touchdown in the first quarter. The Tigers had a 16-7 lead heading to the locker room. The offense was moving well in the first half, but the defense was not to be left out of the limelight. Senior linebacker Chuck Rose was the brightest star in the second half as he first blocked a Wake Forest punt. Series, Rose was at it again as the Jim Stuckey lookalike picked off a Jay Venuto pass and returned it 32 yards to the Wake Forest 4. Two plays later, quarterback Homer Jordan faked into the line, kept on the option, and sprinted around left end, and it was Clemson 23-7. The scoring continued in the third period as Jordan found Tuttle, a combination that clicked 10 times on the day. The attack stalled, so O'Reilly entered and booted his 56th career field goal. It tied him with Tony Franklin for the all-time NCAA record. On the second play of the fourth quarter, Venuto, the ACC Player of the Year in 1979, threw over the middle, but that pass was deflected and picked off by Anthony Rose. The Tiger junior defensive back returned it 18 yards, giving Clemson possession at the Deacon 31. On the fourth play of the drive, Homer Jordan hit Tuttle with his 10th pass of the day, and the native of nearby Winston-Salem sprinted for 22 yards and a touchdown. It was the third touchdown pass of his career against Wake Forest, and the Tigers had a comfortable 35-7 lead. Now, ACC followers have learned never to count out a Jay Venuto-led team. The senior filled the air with footballs in the final 15 minutes as he hit 3 touchdown passes in a matter of 10 minutes, 2 to Kenny Duckett, the ACC's top TD catcher. When another pass set up this run by Wayne McMillan, Wake Forest was within 2 points. The Deacons, moving with unprecedented confidence, got the ball with 51 seconds to go in the game. They had it at their own 47. But a wild snap resulted in a loss of 20 yards. And with 44 seconds to go, Venuto passed toward Wayne Baumgartner, his favorite receiver. But Terry Kennard stepped in front to intercept and preserve the win. Kennard had saved the Tigers and awarded Danny Ford with still another spine-tingling victory 35-33. The following week, 8th-ranked North Carolina, losers only to powerful Oklahoma, journeyed to Clemson for a regionally televised contest in the Valley. The Tar Heels took an early 14-0 lead behind the running of Amos Lawrence, a 4-time 1,000-yard rusher, and his running mate sophomore Kelvin Bryant. Clemson got its first break when quarterback Rod Elkin's pass was intercepted by Hollis Hall at the Clemson 25. Using his rushing and passing plays wisely, Jordan guided the Tigers to the North Carolina 9. And when the drive stalled, Obed Ariri was called upon, and he booted a 26-yard field goal. Now, it was not just any old 26-yard field goal. It was the NCAA record breaker for career field goal. Ariri was presented with the game ball for his outstanding accomplishment. Everyone knew it was coming, but the fleet duo of Jordan to Tuttle struck again, this time for 63 yards, the longest pass play of the season for the Tigers. Tuttle was stopped at the North Carolina 5. And with 4 seconds left, Ariri entered and booted another field goal, his 14th in a row. That 22-yard kick brought Clemson to 14-6 at the half. North Carolina behind Bryant and Lawrence began the third quarter as they did the first by scoring points. A Jeff Hayes field goal and a 3-yard run by Lawrence gave the nationally ranked Tar Heels a 24-6 lead going to the fourth period. Clemson finally got going behind the arm of Jordan, the Athens, Georgian native who had hit 11 of 19 passes for a season-high 207 yards on the day, connected with Jeff Stockstill over the middle. Tailback Wilbur Bullard on his first collegiate carry gave Clemson a first down at the North Carolina 20. Two plays later, Jordan ran it in from the floor. And after a 2-point conversion failed, the Tigers trailed 24-12. The Clemson defense did not allow North Carolina a first down and only 6 yards of total offense in the final quarter. Jeff Davis, who made an incredible 24 tackles on the day, was all over. Jordan, looking like a seasoned veteran instead of a sophomore, and Bullard, a player no one had heard of, took the Tigers on another drive. His pass to Stockstill was the big play of the drive. On the 9th play of the series, Bullard scored his first varsity touchdown. Clemson trailed by only 5 with 7.5 minutes to go. After the Tigers limited the Heels to 0 yards again, Bullard led the Tigers on another thrust. This 11-yard gain started things. But the drive stalled as Lawrence Taylor sacked Jordan. Richard Henley was called on to punt, and the sophomore, who averaged almost 40 yards a boot for Clemson this year, hit a high hanger. The ball was deflected by a North Carolina player, and Jeff Settle pounced on it, giving Clemson new life. The momentum going with them, Jordan hit Frank Magwood for 25 yards to the North Carolina 13. 4 plays later, Clemson had a first and goal at the Tar Heel 1. But as North Carolina had done to so many opponents all season, they showed why they had the 5th-ranked defense in America in 1980, and they stopped the Tiger rally. When Jordan's pass for Gilliard was incomplete in the end zone, Clemson's hopes of an upset had been extinguished. Clemson fans were certainly sad about the loss, but the rampage of the offense in the fourth quarter dominated the thoughts of the fans as they left the stadium. The offense of 1980 was a big play unit, and with the return of the top 44 offensive players for 1981, 400-yard total offense days might be racked up often in years to come. when Clemson and South Carolina meet in anything. And in football, it's certainly the big day. Even Miss Universe made the trip this season. Of course, that's Shawn Weatherly, 1977 Clemson homecoming queen, and the 1980 Miss Universe. Her climb in that field parallels the rise of Clemson football during that same period of time. The Tigers pulled out all the stops to gain every possible advantage. After warming up in their regular orange jerseys and white pants, the team came off the bus in orange pants. The Tigers charged down the hill with never-seen enthusiasm. Might have been over right there. Clemson took an early lead with a long, patented Jordan to Tuttle bomb of 54 yards and an Obed Ariri field goal. And the Gamecocks and Tigers continued the field goal battle into the third period as the Ariri-Eddie Leopard matchup dominated the contest. With the score tied 6-6, South Carolina driving at the Clemson 16. Gamecock quarterback Gary Harper passed out in the right flat, but Underwood had a sixth sense about the play and stepped in front of the receiver and intercepted. He was finally knocked out of bounds at the South Carolina 24. Underwood, a consistent veteran of 47 games at Clemson, had never made an interception during his 4-year career. But Willie was just saving them for his final game in Tiger Town. That 64-yard return had changed the momentum. 9 plays later, quarterback Homer Jordan submarined underneath the line. And when the pile was unstacked, the umpire signaled touchdown. And a Clemson lead of 13-6. 79 seconds later, it was time for Underwood to make his second career interception, and he made this one count. Harper again tried a flat pass, but the Fort Payne, Alabama native stepped in front of the intended receiver, this time at the Gamecock 37, and with nothing but green grass in his way, Underwood bolted for the touchdown and a 20-6 Clemson lead with 14-13 remaining to play. Willie Underwood was named National Defensive Player of the Week by Sports Illustrated for his incredible performance. But despite the lead, the Tigers still had to play tough defense against one of the nation's top 15 offenses. Playing with renewed enthusiasm, the defense finished the season like it had begun, preventing the opponent from crossing the goal line. And that included Heisman Trophy winner George Rogers. The bullish South Carolina tailback finished with 28 carries for 168 yards. But as in 3 previous games against the Tigers, Rogers failed to score a touchdown. Jeff Davis, Steve Durham, Chuck Rose, Dan Benish, and the rest of the Tiger D took on a South Carolina front line that was built like a set of condominiums, and they tossed them aside. Late in the fourth quarter, South Carolina had a 4th and 3 at the Clemson 42 and went for it. But the ball was knocked away from Gamecock quarterback Gary Harper, and Andy Hedden, who started the year at quarterback for the Tigers, came in from his free safety position to throw Harper for a 7-yard loss. Clemson took over on downs. In the final moments, the young offensive line of Tony Berryhill, Lee Nanny, Gary Brown, Brian Clark, Bob Mayberry, Brad Fisher, and others moved aside the South Carolina defense. Clemson drove 51 yards in 8 plays. And when fullback Jeff McCall went between Nanny and Mayberry to score, the Tigers had a 27-6 upset win over the nationally ranked Gamecocks. That orange crush that Danny Ford had ordered had finally arrived. The 1980 Tigers finished with a 6-5 record that included 2 wins over bowl teams and 2 narrow losses to the nation's #1 and #9 ranked teams. The Tigers were 10 yards away from an upset of Georgia and only a yard from a conquest of North Carolina in the final seconds. And with the return of 17 starters for 1981, optimism is the watchword of Tiger fans. Included in the returnees for next season, all ACC wide receiver Perry Tuttle, who set a Clemson record for receiving yardage in 1980. All ACC tackle Lee Nanny, who will return to anchor the offensive line, along with center Tony Berryhill, guard Brad Fisher, and junior tackle Gary Brown. Quarterback Homer Jordan, who set a total offense record at Clemson for a sophomore and finished third in the ACC in total offense and passing efficiency, will return to anchor the backfield. Chuck McSwain, Jeff McCall, and Edgar Pickett will be back to lead the ground games. And wide receiver Jerry Gilliard will return for his third year in the starting offense. Defensively, Jeff Davis, Clemson's leading tackler and All-America candidate, will return to lead the defenders. In the secondary, Terry Kennard, Anthony Rose, and Hollis Hall will be returning starters. And in the trenches, Jeff Bryant, Dan Benish, and James Robinson will supply Clemson with sack power. Yes, the 1980 season was a winning one. It may long be remembered as the season when the seeds of greatness were planted for Tiger football of the 80s.